Hi, dreamers. Well, it's a new year, and this is my first passive income monthly update of the year. Are you ready to spend some time with your very own passive income dream girl? Now, there's a few things I'll cover today. Well, first, the market dynamics have changed a bit, which I'll cover at the end, and how I'm going about a little bit of a change in my approach. And second, I have a slightly new structure to my dividend and options detail, which I'll take you through. And last, I have a brand new passive income goal for 2025, which I'll share with you. What do you think it is? So for January 2025, I've made over $16,000 in investment income. Today I'll review the end of the month totals where I'll show you my dividend and options income. Let's take a look at the detail. Alright, so here we are in the spreadsheet, and you can see for January 2025, I made $10,579 in dividends. And I've listed my dividends by alphabetical order instead of date so that you can see the total grouping, because I hold many of the same positions in multiple accounts. And that's the reason why it's listed 2 or 3 times sometime. So in January, I got $51 from Cardinal Health, just about $50 from Canadian Imperial Bank, $566 from a critical safe harbor, Devo, which I've road tested quite a bit, and when the market crashes, Devo really doesn't move very much. So I really like Devo from a safety aspect. Next, I got just about $70 from money markets holding cash, about $20 from FRT, and only about $8 from GPC. And that's followed by the Goldman income products of GPIQ and GPIX, which I've been pleased with ever since I started positions. So I got just about $650 from these two monthly payers. I also got about $50 from GTY, around $280 from IWMI, and here you see the big payout from JEPQ of $2,180. I got $175 from Maine, which has been doing really well and up substantially over the last year. I got $28 from McKesson and a very small position from Marvel, which is a position I'm testing out. Now here you can see dividends from MU when I was holding this stock for options purposes. And then you see $55 from Realty Income and just about $100 from PCN, which is a position I've actually pulled out of in favor of something else that I'll do a video on soon. I got $862 from PDI, which I'm pleased with, $145 from Pepsi, $831 from PTY, which is my favorite PIMCO product. And here you see some of the weekly Roundhill Innovation income products of QDTE, and I got $62 from QDTE. Now that's followed by $200 from QDVO, which is a position from Amplify that I really like and I'm building. I got $931 from QQQI, a very small dividend from RDTE, which I was testing out and have since liquidated. I'll explain a little bit more why at the end. I got $118 from SLF, which is a financial company I've held for quite a while, and another $282 from Simply Money Market Interest. I got a small dividend from SPY and just about $1,600 from SPYI, which, as you know, I did a dedicated video on. I got $38 from STAG, over $500 from STWD, one of my favorite REITs, just over $100 from SVOL, and $60 from a growing position that I have in TSM. And to wrap up the month, I got $92 from WPC, $342 from XDTE, and finally, just about $40 from YMAG. And that's what makes up that $10,579 dividend income for January. But in addition to that, here's what I made in options. I made $6,189. So what's interesting about what happened in January was that I actually made a very large purchase, which I'll tell you a little bit about maybe in a month. And so almost all of my available cash for puts, which is normally how I make money on options, was pretty much gone. And so what I had to do was get very pointed around where I was going to make my strategic bets to try to make some level of options income in January. And this is new. I've got the detail over to the right-hand side on where I made the bulk of my options income. So you can see one of the places, just about 2,000 of that 6,000, was doing pretty safe calls on Avgo and saving just a little bit of money to do a few puts. The next place I made money was some very pointed bets on CLS and Cisco. I also made a few bets on NVO, with about $940 here, followed by another earnings bet on Qualcomm, which made me about $500. I did a little bit of trading on TQQQ and also took advantage of that new position in Taiwan Semiconductor. And that's how I made the bulk of this $6,000. One of the things you might notice here is that I've been so incredibly careful, not letting too many of my options contracts expire, but instead buying them back as soon as I'm making 50 to 70%. And I'll explain why when I talk about the market conditions and dynamics at the end. So let's take a look at the cumulative income chart. So here we are in the new 2025 cumulative investment income chart. And it's never that exciting at the beginning of the year. But here you can see my dividends for 2025 were $10,580 as compared to $10,900 in 2024. And the reason for that is because I had to liquidate some dividend stocks for that very large purchase that I'll tell you about in about a month. And with my options, my total for January was $16,769, which is compared to 2024, I made $22,461, so a lot less in options, which were the result of two things: really having very little cash to work with for puts and relying more so on my covered call to generate income. And so as you can see, my January, I start off behind, which is likely to go into February. But don't you worry, I have a plan for the back half of the year to really accelerate the income. And I guess that leads me into why I'm making some of these changes. And part of it is due to personal changes, while other parts are due to the market dynamics. And so as you know, I'm never political on this channel. But my prediction for 2025 has changed quite a bit from the last video where I talked about that 50 basis point change and how that would kick off a whole new cycle. Because essentially, everything I said in that video is now reversed. I now see a very choppy 2025 and possibly a pretty sideways market. And really that's due to unknown risks and unknown direction of the new administration. I see some of the policies being put on the table, such as tariffs, being highly inflationary. And if that's the route we take, we might see sticky interest rates for quite a while, which means a higher for longer scenario instead of a interest rate declining environment, because we were just getting a handle on interest rates and starting to reverse course. But now I could actually see a path where we might have rising interest rates as inflation gets out of control, driven by tax cuts and tariffs. But it's really very unknown at this point and very early on in the administration. However, some of the other changes being made with deregulation and taking away watchdogs in all areas of healthcare, public health, banks, consumer protection, airline safety, etc. That to me opens up the possibility that we might have quite a few days that will be very rocky on the market. And so that combined with a Mag 7 that's a little bit overvalued is making me take much safer routes this year, which is kind of unfortunate. And if you recall, the last time the administration started making these kinds of moves, I took 100% of my money out of the market. And then when the pandemic crash happened, I put it all back in. So we'll see how rocky or choppy it gets and what that makes me do in terms of finding additional safe harbors for my money. Because as you know, I'm living off of this investment income full time. And I just can't take a risk of anything happening to this nest egg. So I am actively looking for other safe harbor investments that'll generate income and have less exposure to some of the riskier parts of the market. And I'll be sharing those with you over the course of the year. And of course, in terms of options, you've seen that I've been coming in and out of the market, opening a contract and closing it rather quickly. And if you're interested in knowing more real time exactly what I'm doing, feel free to join the Dividend Dream members as we talk throughout the week. And so with all that said, I'm still sticking to my goal of about $300,000 in investment income this year. Let's see if I can make up the gap that I'll have in January and February to accelerate throughout the rest of the year. Let me know what you think in the comments. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this dividend income update. And if you want a richer, real-time experience with me, you can always follow me on Instagram or X. And if you're doing your own research using Seeking Alpha, feel free to find the link below to subscribe if you want, no pressure. As always, I encourage you to do your own research, then implement and learn by putting it into practice. And as a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, so keep in mind these videos are for entertainment and inspiration only. I'll see you on the flip side.